Hello and welcome to the big picture. The civilizational relationship between India and Iran has received a further boost in the last 2 days with the visit of Prime Minister Modi to Tehran. The visit, which has witnessed bonhomie at the highest level of the governments, has also yielded 12 agreements between the two countries. The most crucial being the one on building the Chabahar port. India has committed $500 million to develop the port. This port, which will give access to India to Afghanistan and other Central Asian countries without having to cross Pakistan, has been on the drawing board for several years. We will discuss the strategic and economic importance of this port to India, as well as the overall importance and outcome of the Prime Minister Modi's visit and its implications to relations in West Asia and the Gulf, as well as the future of the ties with Iran. To discuss this, I have with me M.K. Bhadrakumar, former ambassador, Rana Banerji, former Special Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, Commodore retired C. Uday Bhaskar, Director, Society for Policy Studies, and Nandan Unnikrishnan, Vice President and Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Bhadrakumar, this whole visit has been of very significant importance, fine. But the focus seems to be on Chabahar port. Why is it so?
Well, the optics definitely is Chabahar, but I think this is a brilliant initiative on the whole. And this visit alone probably deflects the entire criticism about the Prime Minister, that his tours abroad have not been substantive. The qualitative difference in this visit and this approach to Iran is to be seen in the following way. We had a strategic partnership with Iran, as you know, 25 years ago, which even led to the strengthening of the anti-Taliban resistance in Afghanistan on the basis of the strategic understanding between our two countries. But the fundamental flaw in the relationship has always been that it lacked content. We're just buying oil from there. I'm not blaming anyone, because in the 90s, Indian economy was very weak. Iran also had just come out of the war with Iraq and was, very, very debilitated, its economy. So we didn't have the money. So the approach that our government has taken, I must say, standing back, having dealt with this country for a long time from the foreign ministry in different capacities, I must state my admiration for it. The approach is to give content to the relationship. Instead of front-loading it with mythical ideas of, Pakistan-centric relationship or Afghan-centric relationship, Taliban-centric relationship, and so on. I think this is a correct approach, because there is, in the post-sanctions period, we are dealing with an Iran that we have not known after the Shah's time.
Right.
So this re-engagement that is taking place is, actually speaking, a fresh start with a new Iran. India also, compared to the 90s, for example, is a very different country, a buoyant economy with very diverse relationships, and no one to prescribe to us, where to delimit the relationship with Iran. So we are also on a far better wicket. But and Indian industry is fortunately very well clued in on the business potential that is there that Iran offers, not only on energy partnership, but also on industrial collaboration, infrastructure development, and the business spin-off thereof. The fact of the matter is that we have a good substantive relationship with the Persian Gulf countries. But what Iran can offer is energy plus, because Iran has a scientific industrial base. It's a large country with a big market, and it has a fairly good agriculture even. So there is, when it starts generating wealth, as it is bound to in a matter of another 5 to 10 years, with the kind of reserves it has of gas and oil, it has huge potential as a partner.
Okay.
So I think the Indian approach is very good, and Mr. Modi's Prime Minister's visit now has engaged their leadership. And this visit was very necessary, because having dealt with Iran, I can tell you, everything's from top to bottom in Iran. Ideas and instructions and thinking percolates down. So it is terribly important that the leaderships engage with each other.
Okay. Mr. Banerji, Bhadrakumar speaks about approach. What was lacking in India's approach before this?
No, I quite agree with many of the things Ambassador Bhadrakumar has said. Firstly, now we have to quickly pay up the dues for the refining of
About
oil.
$6 billion?
Well, first tranche has been paid back to them, but I think 2-3 more tranches are pending. So I am not aware of the exact specifics of it. So we must confirm our intentions to, do business with them. And the other thing is that Chabahar itself is very important because it's been in the works for a while. As a port, it may not be a very, very big port, but if we are able to get 2 terminals out of 4 on a lease to develop them for a period, with dredging and with ability to take in 4 tankers of 25,000 tonnage, it will be a great boost to our trade.
That's what has been planned.
That is the agreement. That memorandum of understanding was concluded last year. But the Iranians are a very tortuous lot as negotiators. See, you never know. They may go back on their word or, deals may be upfronted with more demands or conditions. That sort of thing has happened in the past. So I hope it doesn't happen this time. And then, of course, the rail route which has to be built by us, or it is envisaged that we can do it right up to Zaranj, would be a fantastic, it would be a very good thing if we can bring it off.
Okay. Uday? Uday, the strategic importance of this whole thing as far as India is concerned, how important is it?
Well, the strategic importance really is the location of the Chabahar port. If you can imagine the map, I think most of us are familiar with Gwadar, which is the Pakistani port. And Chabahar is roughly about 70 kilometers west of Gwadar. And from there, I think, as my co-panelists have pointed out, the connectivity that it provides by road from the Iranian port city of Chabahar, port town, towards the point where Afghanistan meets northern Iran.
Right.
The Zaranj and then Daliram. It goes upwards and then it forks into the 4 cities of Afghanistan all the way to Herat.
India has already built a road there.
It's built that 200-kilometer road. So this is the real strategic significance that India would be able to access both Afghanistan and from there Central Asia once the whole thing is realized. Now, I just want to add one caveat here, Girish, if I may, when I may appear like the bad fairy at the good party, but while it is a very positive initiative, Prime Minister going there and having this high-level political kind of interaction, the Iranian president even referred to dosti in his opening remarks, which is all, I think, very positive. But the proof of the pudding will be when Prime Minister Modi returns to India and the $500 million that has been committed, we are able to implement. Because that has been one of the inadequacies that when the Prime Minister travels, in the last 2 years, he has made many commitments. But when you look at the fine print, the ability of the Indian ecosystem to deliver on large projects abroad has always been a challenge and a question mark. So I hope Chabahar is the difference, and that within a year to 2 from now, we are actually able to make these 2 terminals, jetties, whatever has been committed to, functional in the shortest time so that trade can flow. Everyone says Kandla to Chabahar is closer than any connectivity that you have within India.
Within India.
So I think that is the real strategic significance, that it has an economic and trade dimension. It also has the location, that if India and Iran engage and have content, as Bhadran pointed out, I think it would change the regional dynamic. And that is important.
That regional dynamics is what many people are talking about. Nandan, what kind of a change of regional dynamics will take place? One second thing is what Bhadrakumar was talking about, the change in approach which we are witnessing now from the past. What was the problem in the past?
Well, I think all the 3 panelists have made some excellent points. Really, the only thing to add, I would say, is maybe to expand a little bit on what Bhaskar was saying, is we should not focus, strategic connectivity is one of the issues involved with Iran. I think we should look at also the fact that there is a significant contribution Iran can make to our energy security. And over and above that, I think, as Bhadran said, we should not tie this relationship to either Pakistan, Taliban, Afghanistan or something else, but we should try and imbue it with content at a purely bilateral level. The other aspect in terms of regional politics and regional dynamics, I think it's important that we engage with Iran because if you look at all the previous visits that have been undertaken by Modi and Sushma Swaraj, who of course Sushma Swaraj and Gadkari have visited Iran, but a majority of visits have been to the GCC countries, Egypt and several others. So this is a kind of a striking of a balance. I would like to also agree with what Bhaskar has said, that, you know, the proof of the pudding is, or the taste of the pudding is in the eating, and it will depend on how this is implemented when we come back, when Mr. Modi comes back to India. Because if you look at history, I think the Iranians have some reason to be upset with us. I mean, after all, we were not the only ones importing oil or gas from Iran. You've had Japan, you've had China, you have South Korea importing large amounts, yet none of them seem to have developed a backlog. And sanctions applied to all of them, maybe even greater measure than to us. So we have not been innovative enough. I think we've been far too conservative in our approach towards Iran. And I hope, as Badran said, that this imbuing content will help us make up that gap.
Okay. Bhadrakumar? No, this skepticism which both you know, Uday, Bhaskar and Nandan are displaying.
See,
I'm sure caution. Okay, caution, skepticism. This, you know, how it will all be implemented. Why do you? I mean,
You see,
they have a point, right?
Of course, the ultimate test is in the performance. There's no two ways about it. But I have a feeling that this time it will be different because the Indian industry is very well aware of the business potential of dealing with the unbound Iran.
No, but what about all that money which India owes, and why?
You see, it is an amount
and what Nandan was talking about.
6.5 billion.
Yes.
And now, last week, I mean, just days before Prime Minister left from here, we transferred via Halk Bank in Turkey 4.5 already.
4.5 billion.
Out of the 6.5. So it's not an issue.
So that will get settled soon.
But having worked in Soviet Union and having seen other situations of energy producing countries, I can tell you this much, that energy producing countries are very conscious of the level of income that oil or gas produces for them. So that is like their crown jewels.
Absolutely.
So they will negotiate very hard. You can't expect anything else. You know, there is no really market forces working on it when you are looking for a long-term energy cooperation. But if you permit me, Girish, let me just turn back a bit, because I had a role in building the strategic relationship in the early 90s during Mr. Narasimha Rao's government. We had actually three considerations in mind. One was, we were in 93, I'm talking about, we were pretty isolated. After we felt lost after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Iran was a kindred soul in the neighborhood, also like that. And there is a kinship born out of that. And a certain interdependence developed out of it. The second one is this, that, you know, that we had a huge problem with Pakistan because Kashmir was bleeding. And here is an Islamic country, a prominent Islamic country, which was prepared to identify with us, stand with us shoulder to shoulder, and counter the Pakistani campaign on the UN forum, which was invaluable help for us at that time. Then the third one is the congruence of interests over the rise of the Taliban, which both countries saw as nothing short of a Pakistani invasion of Afghanistan, as it happened in the second half of the 90s. That led to the Axis building up the anti-Taliban resistance. But as I told you, neither country at that time was in a position to really add content.
So you're saying that now we are in a better position
Shall I tell you one small
to
thing?
realize the potential, the real potential of the relationship?
Shall I declassify a point? At that time, we tried our level best. Hindujas wanted to undertake a railway project in Iran costing $25 million. Our finance minister at that time was the later Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh. He said, forget it. We just don't have the money. Now we are talking about for Chabahar, $500 million. India is a very different player today.
Okay. Rana Banerji, you know, some of you have suggested, Nandan also was suggesting that, you know, we should look at the relationship from a bilateral angle. But is it really possible? The question is, how will Pakistan and China look at this, you know, last 2 days of Indian Prime Minister's visit there? How will they react? They were already done. This economic corridor is, between China and Pakistan going to Gwadar.
Yes, I mean, in Pakistan, they look at this very negatively, of course, in the sense that they feel that we are trying to undercut their Gwadar project development. And if Chabahar develops, then Gwadar as a port may not be competitive. China is not so much concerned, but China is a competitive bidder for projects, development projects, both in Iran and in Afghanistan. In Iran, in the Chabahar port itself, they have been tendering at rates which the Iranians may consider favorable. But the fact that now we have this agreement, we should implement quickly. Also the railway project. There is a snag there because the connection between Zaranj and the main Iranian railway grid is by meter gauge. And it is through a place called Milak. So from Kerman Zahedan, that is the circular route which has the main rail route. We have to connect up Milak and then Zaranj by rail through broad gauge. Again, the rights or somebody who is very good and quick in completing this type of project should come in. Otherwise, the Chinese could well pip us in that. So we need to make this project functional so that the trade and transit, the tripartite agreement which has come,
with Afghanistan,
benefits Afghanistan also. And the Iranians have in the past been a little bit lukewarm about going ahead full steam in these projects, or they feel that India is not committing fast enough with funds.
You think that will change today?
I hope so.
Uday, Bhaskar?
Well, I'm also hoping so, because the reason is domestic.
Also about the China-Pakistan angle.
No, the way I look at it, Girish, if India is able to infuse appropriate content into the bilateral, it would, I think, axiomatically have a regional relevance, meaning that both Pakistan and China are going to be looking at the Indian initiative in a very, very detailed manner. I'm sure they'll monitor it. And I think this is the challenge for Mr. Modi. Now, I fully agree with what Ambassador Bhadrakumar has said about the changed context. India and the region, from Prime Minister Narasimha Rao through Prime Minister Vajpayee to 2 tenures of UPA 1 and 2, were very different. What Mr. Modi brings is a certain degree of energy, high-level political energy, which we are seeing on display now even as the Iran visit is going on. But when he comes back, day after tomorrow, he finishes 2 years. The third year of a parliamentary, shall we say, democracy is make or break. And I would personally hope that the Iran project and Chabahar becomes a kind of flagship. There are many things that he has to look at from Tokyo, the first visit he did in 2014 to Iran now. But I hope his cabinet and the Indian ecosystem of the professionals that we have at different levels are able to really impart that kind of competence to deliver and have Chabahar actually functional within 2 years. My personal assessment is that if it is given that kind of priority and trade starts flowing from the Indian west coast towards the Iranian port and then onwards, that itself, I think, would have an enormous kind of significance for the entire region. China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the
Central
rest of
Asia.
West Asia, about India's ability to deliver on large infrastructure projects which have a subtext, a certain strategic significance, and how things play out in Pakistan, Afghanistan would, to my mind, it would be automatically, shall we say, impacted the India-Iran bilateral.
Okay. Nandan, I think Rana Banerji earlier mentioned about some of the hitches which can come about. You think there could be some hitches in completing this, taking this project ahead from today onwards? Do you see any such hitches coming from outside, not within the India, which everybody is talking about, that because of the ecosystem which has prevailed in the past, there may be a problem, but hopefully that ecosystem will change now. But what about any hitches outside India, from outside India?
I think we have to view this a little differently, in the sense that Iran has a certain strategic importance for us. That strategic importance is not dependent on whether Iran is friendly with the United States or Iran is friendly with China. Iran is important to India, period, in the current context. So we need to develop our relationship there, irrespective of what kind of relationship other countries have. The second aspect is about the possible hitches internally. I just want to remind you that the commitment to pay part of this $6.5 billion was made in UFA. The payment was made just, 10 days before the PM got, less than that, before the PM left. So there is a huge gap. It's taken us this amount of time to make a payment, so there is a problem somewhere. Surely it didn't take RBI so long to identify one bank to be able to make the transmission of money. So I believe that I fully share Bhadran's view that this government is committed to this relationship and is attempting to put something of substance into it. I'm not disputing that at all. But I am worried about our institutional capacity to deliver the message or deliver content to what the vision of the leadership is. So that is my primary concern. I definitely believe that our relationship with Iran is important.
Okay. Bhadrakumar, how would you react to that? The institutional problem.
This actually transfer of funds is not because of any problem with the Indian bureaucracy. It is actually because most banks refuse to handle this transaction, and now John Kerry undertook a visit to London specifically for this purpose just last Monday to call the bankers and tell them that, look, under Iran deal, we may have, Americans may have sanctions. Let me just divulge a little bit of secret. Americans are encouraging this relationship, India-Iran.
That is what I wanted to come to. Why?
Yes.
Why would they encourage this?
Of course, it's quite understandable. They look at this, India, as a moderating influence on Iran.
On the region.
They look at it as a balancer vis-a-vis China, Russia. So it's quite understandable. And in Iran, we haven't dissected it. There is a big struggle going on internally, and it's of existential proportions. And whoever comes on top, everyone is a stakeholder in the Western world as to who's going to come on top. And therefore, a certain gravitation in a different direction at this time could be the tipping point. So, Americans are understandably encouraging us to build up with Iran. This is the situation today. So anyway, Kerry made this point, and after that, a number of bankers have been assured personally by the American State Secretary, and following that, the window of opportunity came for us. So it is not because of lackadaisical attitude on the part of the Indian bureaucracy. This just was not, door was closed.
And Iran, you think, understands it?
Iran appreciates. Now, having dealt with them for so many years, I can tell you this, that, they are a very pragmatic lot, extremely pragmatic lot. Now, can you imagine that the present foreign minister is on Twitter and, on Facebook, with Nancy Pelosi, who's a Jewish leader. And, this is a kind of, they have greeted, the Jewish people on their holidays. It's a very different Iran we are talking about. Girish, one thing I wanted to mention here, which didn't come up. When we talk about Pakistan, Afghanistan, and so on, we overlook the fact that Iran takes itself seriously, its role as a regional player. It has a perception of Pakistan. From its point of view, that relationship cannot be tampered with. They are working on it seriously for the following reasons. Number one, they have always been interested in getting the Pakistanis out of the Saudi orbit. Number two, they have taken note that despite the traditional relationship, Pakistanis refuse to become part of the proxy war against Iran in Yemen and Syria. And the Iranians appreciate it very much. Most importantly, they want Pakistan to stop the cross-border terrorism in Sistan, Balochistan. So you see, the point is, therefore, that is why I'm saying our approach. I didn't have an opportunity to finish it. I think our foreign policy establishment and Mr. Modi, they are doing it very brilliantly well in not front-loading it with this sort of strategic thoughts,
Okay.
See, lately, I wouldn't quite agree with Bhadran in this regard, because lately Iran has been...
You wouldn't agree?
Wouldn't. Because Iran has been a little bit unhappy about the extent to which the Pakistanis have kowtowed to the Saudis. Not sending to Yemen was okay, but after that the Saudis read the riot act to Rahil Sharif, and after that they have said that we'll be part of the security pact, etc. And later on, when the allegations were made about this Jadhav fellow, and Rahil made a statement, or the ISPR said that this had been discussed with Rouhani during the Iranian president's visit, the Iranians were very unhappy about it. They didn't want to get involved in this. And also the very interesting fact that Taliban leader Mansoor Akhtar, he has been killed while he was coming back from Iran. So this, he has been in hiding and his location has not been known. So it is suspected that he might have taken refuge or was in contact with some factions of the
So what
IRA
are they?
in Iran. So you see, the Americans have been keeping a tab on his movements, and the fact that he was eliminated while he was coming back from Iran is significant. So they do have interests in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. And
Americans you're talking about?
No, the Iranians.
Iranians.
And they keep, playing several actors at the same time.
So what is it that we can do?
Well, I think India has to maintain the current tempo of being able to engage the entire region. Because I think we also have to bear in mind that currently India has demonstrated the ability to be in touch both with Iran, where Prime Minister Modi is currently on a visit, as also with Saudi Arabia. So I think the Indian acumen or the Indian competence to be able to maintain this kind of
Balance.
alignment or even engagement, perhaps alignment is the wrong word, but engagement is something that we have to, I think, sustain and ensure that as far as India's primary interests, both trade and economic on one hand and the security and strategic on the other, are appropriately balanced or accommodated. I think that is going to be the challenge. And 1 year from now, Girish, I think that is the critical point. The current Modi visit must be seen to deliver.
Okay.
That I think is critical.
Nandan, you expect the delivery to happen in the next 1 year? Very quickly, we are running out of time.
Yes, I think the 2-year framework to get Chabahar going is a good framework. And I think if the Prime Minister is able to put a competent person over a team that supervises this on a regular basis, we will get there.
Okay. I think on that note, we need to end. We'll wait and watch how things will develop. But it has been a positive visit, as all my panelists agree. We'll have to wait and watch how it will be delivered. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture same time tomorrow.